but we're here. I was just speaking with someone this morning who mentioned the small number of people who are in the sanctuary this morning with a little bit of concern, right? Because it's hard on the heart thinking that this incredible community that we know as Unity Village Chapel could be struggling at all, right? But this is a time of struggle, isn't it? This is a time of finding out what we're made of. This is a time of connecting with our deepest spiritual practice and drawing it forth. Because there is no one right here and right now that is exempt from struggle, right? So we either let that beat us down, we either let that worry us and concern us, which is human, right? We have to spend the time and allow the feelings, allow the emotions to flow in and through us in each and every moment. But we also have to call forth our spiritual power, our spiritual connectedness, our spiritual abilities to meet these times. Because we are here by divine appointment. It is not by accident. It is by consciousness and by right of consciousness that each of us are swimming in this current pool of conditions. And if we look at the conditions and think, how can I get these conditions rearranged so that everything's better or everything's okay, we will not meet the changing times. I remember hearing something in an article from Oprah when she was interviewed and she was asked, how did you stay in the game as long as you have? How do you keep staying in the game? How have you continued to be as popular as you are and as relevant as you are? And her answer was this. It wasn't, I keep rearranging my staff, I keep rearranging this, I keep fixing things. It wasn't, I keep manipulating outer conditions and working with exactly what's in front of me, reconfiguring it, and getting back into the game. No, it was this. It was this statement. She said, I reinvent myself. I reinvent myself. That means invent yourself again. That doesn't mean I take everything as it is and I try to figure out how I can go back and get whatever I had back. Michael Beckwith has a great quote. I don't have it in my brain because it just flew in here, but it is an incredible thing that he said about how we don't want what we had back, we want what's new. And that had nothing to do with the times we're living in right now. It had to do with something else, and it's relevant because it's one of those eternal statements of truth. Our hearts sometimes think we want something back. But that's human and that's ordinary. The truth is that life changes. Life changes. And if we continue to want something back that we had in the past, we will continually be disappointed because it will miss the mark. Because this moment is divinely designed for everyone who is right here, right now, for all of the current circumstances, conditions, and consciousness that exist right here, right now, in this time and space. And though it's human and though it's ordinary, the times that we reach back into the past and say, no, I want that back right here and right now, it's like trying to eat a meal again that was delicious that you had a while ago. You can't get it back, and if you could, you don't want it in that form. So what do we do with this energy? What do we do with the now moment? What we focus on and what we know in each moment, what is truth, is that I have everything I need to meet this moment in consciousness. That in truth, in spiritual substance, there is nothing missing. There cannot be anything missing. Because as I was born, there was a divine blueprint. As you were born, there was a divine blueprint for who you are in each moment. It is a living cell. It is a living energy, a living expression of light. And with you comes forth everything needed, if we're willing to stop grasping back here and grasping up here and grasping everything outside of us and instead to take the deep dive into the living waters. That's the truth about the world around us, and that's the truth about the world within us. Sages, mystics, and master teachers have practiced it and taught it throughout the ages in all sorts of circumstances, and they have proven, they have shown that when we dive inwardly, there is more than enough. So we hold tight to these things. We hold tight to the knowing and the truth that there is more than enough spiritual substance available. It cannot be diminished. It cannot be destroyed. It is an ever-flowing fountain that is existent in each moment. Yes? We dive in to knowing that we have consciousness. And as long as we have consciousness, we have the core of what we need. That is for ours to ever be working on and not working on from an aspect of struggle, but working on as far as authenticity, vulnerability, accountability, reflection, mindfulness. Mindfulness, it's about being with the full mind, showing up to life with the fullness of your mind. There is so much mind, with a capital M, available that we underutilize, no? We forget. It's part of the human condition. We look at what's around us and we call it real, and we forget how much that is invisible is so real. We forget that when people lift off into their freedom form, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. They may just be as well right here, right now, but we can't see them with our eyes. We forget that we don't have to just rearrange substance and put things back together in different ways, hoping they'll be better. We forget who and whose we are, that we have the ability to recreate and reinvent ourselves in every moment. We forget our imagination and the power of that imagination. It seems kind of funny that Charles Fillmore noted these 12 powers and that one of them was imagination. I mean, what an interesting little power. Faith with the imagination is a creative force to be reckoned with. Faith is the perceiving power of mind linked with the ability to shape substance. Well, that perceiving power is the power that can perceive, the power that can look and see something, right? So you can look and you can see something, and when you do that, and when you hold to it, when you call it real, you link with your internal creative power and begin to shift and shape substance. Substance is that which is unformed. It is that God particle that is in everything. Call it whatever you want. You can take the name God out and put love. You can take the name God out and put energy. Whatever it is, whatever we learn 100 years or 1,000 years down the road about quantum physics, whatever it is named then, it needs no label. It is what we all know is here. The reason that we're informed, the reason there are trees, the reason there's an ocean, the reason this sanctuary is here, the reason we have consciousness. But if you take your faith faculty, the ability to intuit, the ability to know, the ability to perceive, and you link that with what is, which is the ability to shape substance, and you don't need to try to do this, friends. We don't need to try. It is in our nature. It is what we are. It is what we are. It happens all the time. It's like electricity is what it is. You don't have to make it happen. If you stick something in a socket, it's going to happen. You get to decide if you want to stick in a plug and an outlet and generate goodness for the whole world, or if you want to stick in a knife and get a little zing. Let's not repeat that. I have a 3-year-old. You don't say those kind of things out loud. But it's working no matter what, right? It's working no matter what. It's working no matter what. If you think you're working it, if you don't think you're working it, it's working. Because it is in our nature. It is of our nature. So our task, our key, is to work it more mindfully, to become more conscious of it. Because we are centers of imagination, are we not? Who has not imagined some things they don't want to happen? Who has not gone into their space of imagination and stewed with some scenarios that we do not want? That's using the power of imagination without mindfulness. It happens. It's ordinary. But as we walk on the spiritual journey, as we walk on the path, we wake up sooner and sooner, faster and faster, and we wake up to those moments going, I'm doing that. I'm doing that again. Let me stop rehearsing trouble. Let me stop rehearsing problems. Let me stop backing myself into a a hole or a cave or some sort of imagined limitation, because right now I am in my practice. Right now I am actually in prayer. We don't teach prayer like this, but we should, because that's prayer. Prayer is taking your creative ability and taking your thinking center, and the real deep role of prayer, the real deep purpose and practice is to take that, to use it, and to just enter into a big let go and just say, show me. To say, show me, I'm listening, I'm here, I'm listening. To lift up what is in here and to let it be rearranged so that we can step into alignment with the great good. But instead, we often use it to rehearse our worries, our concerns, our limitations, and the conditions that we see in front of us, trying to figure out, trying to manipulate, trying to rearrange. How could we get back somewhere? Or how could we rearrange everything that's in front of us so that it works, so that it's better? And when we do that, guess what happens, friend? A train goes by. A train goes by right in front of us. It's honking its horn. It's got its little choo-choo going. It's on the tracks. It goes by, and we are busy rehearsing. We are busy here. So our senses are not in tune. Our senses are not paying attention. The train is behind us. The train is out of view. We can't hear the sounds because we hear the sound of the clanging cymbals in our minds driving us nuts sometimes. But that perceiving power of the mind, linked with the ability to shape substance, which is faith, has a sacred key to it. See, the perceiving power of the mind, that power is deep. It's not just about perceiving what's in front of us. It's perceiving with mindfulness. It's perceiving with all of our senses, using our full mind. And that perceiving power can dive into realms unknown to us and realms that have not been expressed or created yet, but that are connected with pure substance, here as a blueprint ready to be expressed or expanded or released into creation if we are willing to listen. So when you link that creative power with the imagination, and when we link it consciously, mindfully, in a conscious practice, incredible things unfold. Because part of that is about looking at what's real, and we tend to say in the human condition that what's real is right in front of us. It's what we can see, it's what we can touch, taste, feel, hear. But there is an expansion of that practice, and it's the power of imagination, and we underutilize it. I think that's why in Scripture it says, become like a child, become like a child, become like a child. It's not so that we can all be infants walking around as adults with consciousness of me and mine, all the other little things that children grow through. It's because children have this innate ability to use their imagination. They have insane, incredible creativity. And sometimes that's taught right out of us. But we all had it. We all possess it. We all know it. Who has seen a child, a grandchild, a little one just play for hours on end? Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? It's like, I wondered at one point, I think of myself sometimes as not very creative. And I wondered, how am I going to, do this with her? Create enough engagement. So I just let go and I watched. And I marvel. I mean, there should be studies done recording what these kids do because they're incredible. She is now talking in accents, my little one. She's talking in accents, so she has an English accent, and this one talks to this one. But it's incredible, and that power of imagination, I think that's why we have that sacred aspect of Scripture that's hey, remember. You don't have to get so old that you forget your powers. That's why I think Charles Fillmore included it as one of our greatest faculties, because it's here for us and it is so underutilized. We use the power of prayer, we use the power of meditation, we use the power of spiritual practice and community and coming together. Those have become quite common. But we forget the power of imagination. One of the keys to the power of imagination is tuning into that perceiving power. And that perceiving power, it perceives something when we make it real. When we make it real in the mind. So when we add not only visualization, but we add the sense of smell, the sense of touch, the sense of sound, and we become immersed in something. You know, when you're in a movie and you see say a scary movie, you see one, you know your body still releases cortisol as if there's something happening, right? If you're in a movie and it's really intense, you might as well be being chased in a park at night because something is happening in your body. Have you felt it? They can measure these things. When we see acts of service, acts of kindness, they can measure the body and the chemicals that are released by being reassured. I just recently got a link to an article, a story from my sister, and it was a story from about 21 years ago. And it came with something in the text that said something like, oh my gosh, get ready when you read this story, and something about tears. It was just something, letting me know, like, make space for this one because it's kind of going to blow your mind. And so I left it there. I left it on my text stream for a couple days until I could read it mindfully, till I could read it with the time and the space to breathe it in and feel it and to give it what it deserves, not just scanning through it when I'm in the middle of busyness and in the middle of day-to-day things. And so I did it. I snuggled into my bed one of these nights, and I clicked on the link, and I started reading the story. And the story was about a man in New York City in the subways 21 years ago. And as he was getting off the subway, he saw a little black sweater along the wall. And he noticed it, started to kind of pull towards it, and then just started going up the subway to be on his way. And he said it wasn't very crowded that night. It was later, and there wasn't a lot of people there. There weren't very many. And as he started up the stairs, he saw these little legs sticking out, and he thought, some little girl left her doll or something like that. And as he was going up the stairs, he got an impulse. He glanced back, and those little toes moved. And he went over there and unwrapped a little infant, swaddled in a black sweatshirt, still with the umbilical cord on, clearly new to life. So a series of events unfolded. He went forward and he called 911. He didn't want to move the child in case there was something wrong. And he called his partner, who actually, I think he called his partner first, and then the partner said he was going to come there and then call 911. Oh no, they already did it. So they both were calling 911. But anyway, they arrive at the scene just in shock of this moment and this sacred divine appointment. And the police, as they're meeting up at the top of the stairs, the police carry this little infant up. And the story goes on to share that he was contacted a little while later down the road to testify about this experience and about what happened. And his partner, at the time, I think it said they'd been together for 3 years, his partner said, that you're going to be connected to this little boy, this young man. You're going to be connected to this soul for the rest of your life. Like, this is a divine appointment. He didn't say that, but something like that, right? But they didn't know what that would look like. And they were gay men in New York City, not a lot of money, not in a stage of life where they were doing anything else but, having them time in their lives. But he was called in to testify. He was called in to give his witness account of what happened to the courtroom months later. I think it was months later. Not too many months, because this is still a little baby. But the nutshell of the story is he was there before the judge and testified, and the judge brought him up in front of the court and asked him if he would like to have this child. Would you like for this to be your baby? Now just imagine that for a second. You're young, You're in the city where expenses are high, space is limited. You're two men 21 years ago. And he stood there in the court, having to use what? The power of his imagination. And in a moment, having to merge it with the power of faith. Trusting that spiritual substance will come forward, and that if this is the divine appointment, if this is what is meant to be, then he will have the resources. So the story goes on to share that he had a conversation with his partner at that time, and they discussed how an opportunity like this will never come around again. And he said, even though they were in a happy relationship, he said in that moment, I need to do this with or without you. Like, you get to decide if you're coming along and this is us, but I'm going to be here for this child for the rest of his life. And they ended up adopting that child. He's now 21 and incredibly smart. Like, the schooling and the awards and the life of this child is incredible. There were images of the three of them together and images of them, hiking and doing things in nature together, and this incredibly loved and successful young man. The two men went on to get married when they were able to get married. And their son, when asking about the marriage and the wedding, said, "Can a judge marry someone?" And the fathers knew what he was talking about. So they went back to that judge, and they had the judge do their wedding. And the judge shared with them that at this time, around 21 years ago, the laws were different. Now a child has to go into social services, and there's a whole thing that has to happen in order for them to be placed with a home. But during the time when they adopted their son, and he did go to social services for a while, and then he was brought back to them a few days before Christmas. And again, they had nothing there, and they just said yes. And what happened was the sister and the mother and the friends, everyone rallied around them, brought everything you could possibly need for a little infant to their house, and turned their little teeny, meeny apartment into a perfect space for a little one. But they said yes a few days before Christmas, having no idea how they were going to do it. Imagination. But the judge shared with them that at that time, there was a special law or ruling in place. And it said in cases of child abandonment, a judge can appoint the caretaker of the child as they see fit. So if they see someone that they know in their hearts, or they can tell would provide a good family for a child, they get to cut through all the tape, and they get to create that divine appointment. She explained how that was only in effect for a very short period of time. And it happened to be the period of time where they got their son. That took imagination on the part of the judge, didn't it? I mean, think about this. 21 years ago, a judge in a courtroom, knowing someone found an infant, knowing that you've got this, not single, but coupled, but man, in New York City, probably not thinking of a family, probably not thinking, let's figure out how to have kids. They kind of shared in the article that they probably wouldn't have gone there. But tuning into the power of imagination and the power of faith enough to go with that impulse and to share what you get and to call him forth and to say, would you like to be the parent of this child? No doubt that judge used imagination. Imagining the impact it would have on a human being walking through a subway station and finding an infant wrapped in a black sweatshirt, helpless and alone. The impact that that would have on one's soul and the bond that that would create, the commitment that that would create to that child, even when the resources to do so, the history, the background, even the intention to do so, lived purely in the realm of the invisible. But lived in the perceiving power of the mind, shaped with the ability to move substance. That's power. And that's the power of creativity. And that divine faculty is available to each and every one of us as a spiritual practice. And this is what it looks like. What it looks like is doing a radical self-inventory to look at how we are doing with the power of imagination, how we are using it. If we're using it mindfully, not criticizing ourselves for being human and processing things, right? Not at all resisting or pushing under the table the worries, the concerns, the things that come up as part of the human condition. We don't want to do that because that doesn't make things go away. That just presses them down into depression or into repression. No. We process them. We share them. We connect with others, and we allow ourselves to be reminded of what is possible. We process them. We allow our tears to flow. We allow the feelings to come. And we allow it to flow through us rather than get stuck within us. But what the human condition often tends to do is to take those experiences and we build altars to them. We build homes around them. We get comfortable with them. We sit in them, and then we rehearse them over and over, and that's where we catch ourselves. That's where the inventory comes in. That's where mindfulness as a practice is critical. Because we recognize when we're processing and experiencing and moving energy, and we recognize when we're rehearsing, when we're sustaining, when we're maintaining a worry, a concern, or a problem, whether it's about a health condition, whether it's about an emotional experience, whether it's about the world around us, whatever it is, we recognize the moment when we're rehearsing and we become mindful. And as we become mindful and as we practice this, we wake up more quickly each time to how we are impacting our experience through the power of creativity and the power of faith. And then we make a commitment. So the first step is the radical inventory. The second step is accountability. Once I see what I'm doing, then I'm accountable for it. And the third step is to engage the practice. Yes, the practice of spiritual community. Yes, the practice of reading texts that inspire you. Yes, the practice of service. Yes, the practice of meditation and prayer. But yes, the practice of imagination. And we allow ourselves time in the imaginative realm. If you know about the kind of later research in science on imaginal cells, and you look at a caterpillar to a butterfly, there are imaginal cells in the caterpillar and the butterfly. It's this creation that it creates from a caterpillar something totally unlike a caterpillar. But once these imaginal cells get activated, they turn on, they have a new blueprint. So from something that is totally unlike something else, you get something new. We are part of nature. We are part of that process. But it takes creatively using our imagination consciously, recognizing that we're using it all the time. And how can we step into using it more consciously? How can we become like little children and begin to play? I have something that I say happens to me, but whatever. Anyone that knows songwriting knows that you're using your imagination. You're like leaning into this realm and you're just pulling in harmonies, melodies, lyrics, insights. Anyone that's a writer knows that process. Anyone that's an intuitive knows that process. But I have something else kind of funny that happens with me, and I'm a little, it's even funny to say this, but I will say this. I am an inventor. My mind invents wild things, and I love it. I don't do anything with it. I think all the time, if I had the type A personality to patent stuff, and to actually make it, I'd make us all rich over and over again. The things that this creative center has come up with, I just love it. And the reason why I love it, one, just because it boggles my mind that the things that I come up with don't exist yet. I also know that when I'm tapping into it, there's something that happens, and other people tap into those things too. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you start thinking of something and you imagine something, say you invent something, chances are it's like they're around us, it's there within us, and someone else is going to tap into it and do it too, right? I mean, now, if you search for it on the internet, there's probably some company that just sucks every new thing. It's like, that one's not made yet, let's take it. But I love it because something happens when it happens in me. It's invigorating. It's exciting. It's like being a witness to something that you're a part of, but that surprises you. And it provides this energy of vitality and excitement because we're no longer rearranging what's in front of us. We're just letting go and pulling in new things. I kind of want to tell you some of my inventions, but I don't want you to think it's silly and not a big deal. But I have some inventions and they're important. If you lived in New York City, you'd want this invention. All right? Are you ready? Now, we can Google it after the service and see, because I've had this for probably over 10 years, and I don't know if anyone's created it yet. And it's super important. It'll transform life on the planet. Are you ready? Someone needs to invent a shoe where you can take off the heel. You can just click it, slide it right out. And then you got walkers. And then the second you get to your party, you get to Sunday service, you get to wherever you're going, click those puppies right back on. Wherever you go, you just stick them in your purse. Right? Who wants to wear this all the time? That's not good for your feet. Stop it. No. The vacuum cleaner that has, you know how they say how dirty your carpet is? Anyone have carpet? Have you seen those ads about your, well, they're not ads, like research little stories about, no, none of us want to hear this, about all the bacteria that's like in your pillow, in your pillowcase, on your bed. You know what I'm talking about? All the little things that are alive in there, right? Well, a vacuum cleaner, because your carpet's the same way, a vacuum cleaner that as you vacuum your carpet, it kills everything with UV light. So you're just vacuuming, but it's killing it with UV light. I have a million others. Those are just two of my fun, silly ones. Literally a million. I was thinking of starting a little Facebook page that's anonymous. Well, it can't be anonymous anymore, can it? Just for all the little inventions. So that someone will do them, The power of imagination is invigorating. It's childlike. It's expansive. But when it comes to matters of the heart, matters of your peace of mind, matters of your happiness, matters of reducing your stress level, your suffering, your anxiety, trying to look at how on earth can I work with what's in front of me? Can I work with these ingredients, and make happiness, make love, make peace, make greatness? When it comes to matters like that, it's critical. It's available. And it's here for each one of us. And we use it by just taking a deep breath in and diving into the field of imagination, picturing, sensing, smelling, feeling what it's like to go beyond what we see with our human eyes. So let's take a moment together and let's just breathe into a time of meditation. Sweet Spirit, sweet Spirit, I have been underutilizing this incredible capacity that is my divine birthright. Remind me in wondrous ways of the capabilities born in me at my birth, of the consciousness and the spiritual substance available to me, so that I may discontinue creating from the world, from the effect, from the outer conditions and the outer limitations, and I may ignite my imagination so that I may create from the realm of spiritual substance, from the realm of divine ideas, that I may tap into the blueprints big and small, knowing that everything is created twice. First, in the mind, in the imagination, then in expression. I inhale and exhale into this practice, breathing in the light, breathing in creativity, let me remember in this now moment that the benefits of imagination are real. Just like the discord of rehearsing problems, rehearsing limitations, rehearsing suffering is real. So is the great mighty power of rehearsing in absolute imagination. So I breathe in and I breathe out, checking into my practice with the power of imagination. Napoleon Hill said, imagination is the workshop of the mind. The workshop of the mind. Let my mind be a workshop for good. Allow me to consciously conspire with my imagination for the benefit of all humanity, so that I may be about what I am here to be, that I may tap into the great source and the great resource of life and reinvent rather than rearrange. In the words of Neville Goddard, the great secret is a controlled imagination and a well-sustained attention, firmly and repeatedly focused on the object to be accomplished. I am listening. I am aware. I am imaginative. I am mindful. I take this breath into the depths of my practice, that I will be guided to ways of using my imagination that bring me vitality, that I will remember in any moment of rehearsing limitation to honor my feelings and process my fears and share and get the support I need. And then I will dive. I will deeply dive into the power of my imagination. And call that time holy, sacred, and creative. This is my practice, and I let it be done unto me in the silence. I am home. I am holy. I am one with my imagination. Namaste.